We told you it might happen, and it ended up happening. Brock Bowers returned to action on Saturday against Ole Miss for the Georgia Bulldogs. First time since the Vanderbilt game on October 14th. And then he has the surgery the Monday following that game. He gets back to action less than 4 weeks removed from that surgery. And he only ended up missing, because of the bye week, he ended up only missing half of the Vanderbilt game, obviously, left early. And then he misses the Florida game and the Missouri game. So Bowers only misses 2.5 football games after, having a severe ankle sprain and having having tightrope surgery done to fix it. He returned to action against Ole Miss. He ends up getting a touchdown. He ends up getting 3 catches. We'll talk more about that. Amarius Mims, another player who returned to action for the Georgia Bulldogs on Saturday. Same injury, same deal with him. He has the ankle sprain. He has the tightrope surgery. But for him, it was September 16th against South Carolina. That's when it happened for him. He returns to action against Ole Miss as well. You do the math. That's almost 2 months. And we told you, look, bigger guy, Amarius Mims, it's probably going to take a little bit longer than it would have with a guy like Lawson Lucky, who I think returned in 5 or 6 weeks. Bowers returns in 3.5. So for Mims, it's more like 7 or 8 weeks. All the same injury, similar injury. Obviously, it's different for every person with different bodies, but the severity level was probably not exactly the same for all 3 of them. Mims and Bowers return to action for Georgia. So this injury report thing is getting a little bit slimmer and a little bit slimmer. And as good as that was for the Dogs to be healthier, to create more depth on Saturday, and look, that ended up with a 52-17 beatdown of a top 10 team in the Ole Miss Rebels. They didn't come out completely unscathed, all right? Julian Humphrey is the most notable. He got injured, right? Warren Brinson, a guy, got dinged up. He was fine. So he got dinged up, and that was it. Jamon Dumas-Johnson, obviously, still out for the Georgia Bulldogs. Not much of an update there. We'll talk about that a little bit too. So, what does Kirby Smart have to say about some of these injured Georgia Bulldogs? What happened this week? Where are the Georgia Bulldogs at with health? Ryan Curley from Dawg Post talking here. Make sure you're checking out our newsletter. I'm linking that down below in the description. Our newsletter. You're going to get that in your inbox every single day with free premium inside stories, everything that you need, because I can't spurt out every word that's written on the website out on here, right? It's not all done. There's more than one phase to the game. There's offense, there's defense, and special teams. We got to do that too, and that's on the website. So make sure you're checking that out with the link down below. Guys, Kirby, it's funny because he, sometimes he'll say stuff to us in these press conferences about, why don't you guys want to talk about this? Or you guys never asked me about this. And then sometimes, those types of questions do get asked, and it's this time, being about injuries, and he's just as vague as possibly can be. So it was a vague day from Kirby Smart, and we know that that's kind of been his MO, and that's a lot of coaches' MO with the media is not discussing, as much as they possibly can with us. So Bowers, he plays, I saw Pro Football Focus. They do a lot of advanced stats. They clocked him at around 45 snaps for this game. I thought it was obvious he wasn't 100% on Saturday. I thought that he looked good during warmups. He's out there high-pointing footballs. He's out there leading in drills. He was the first guy in drills, taking that tight end one spot back. The crowd erupts during pregame when they're doing the start. They're announcing the expected starters on the video board. When it got around to Brock Bowers' name, that was by far the loudest crowd. And look, the loudest yells from the crowd came when Brock Bowers was announced as a starter, and that's normally the case anyway. But a few extra decibels for this one. With a half of a surprise return, half not. It wasn't. No one was really 100% sure until I guess Carson Beck on Thursday. He said he was 100% sure that Bowers was going to play in this game on Saturday. Kirby, real vague about it when asked just where he's at with this thing, because it was obvious he wasn't 100%, even though he did contribute. He said he didn't play every snap of any game anyways, which is just true because of the fact that Georgia blows some of these teams out. He's not playing in the second half, but most of the time Bowers is out there almost every play. He rarely comes off the field, and that's a fact. And he came off the field more often than he normally would because he's getting roped back into it. Kirby goes on to say he's in good shape. He's conditioned. I don't know that he's 100%, but he's healthy and safe enough to play. Bowers had to keep warm on the bike on Saturday. It was obvious. I thought he was a little gimpy on the sideline. Look, you shouldn't have expected him to be 100% if you did. It's just not the case. Will he be healthier going up to Knoxville? I imagine yes. Another week of... I imagine he's not having a completely normal routine right now. I imagine he's still doing rehab to a certain extent, getting to the shape and conditioning level that he needs to be at a really high level for Georgia. And even injured, though, he gets on the field. He has 3 catches. He makes an impact. Doesn't have some crazy Brock Bowers game or anything. He does end up with the touchdown when the game's already out of hand. But his presence out there, more than anything, creates a decoy. And that happened on Ladd McConkey's touchdown when Bowers was running, kind of a post route, and Ladd was also running it, kind of perpendicularly. That safety bit on Bowers, and that's part of why Carson Beck had a second window to rip that ball in there to Ladd McConkey on that touchdown. Just his impact being out there matters. Julian Humphrey, all right, you guys, hopefully you bore. I don't know, but hopefully you stuck with me 6 minutes through this thing to talk about Julian Humphrey, since that is the newer injury. I just wanted to get Bowers out of the way. So Humphrey gets hurt in the first quarter. Him and I believe it was Bullard go to tackle Quinshon Judkins towards the left side, east end zone, right? The closed end zone, not the Jumbotron end zone, probably about the 10-yard line is roughly where this injury happens. He gets up, he's holding on to his arm. Could have been a shoulder injury. It could have been, there is no specification on what it is exactly. What we think is that Julian Humphrey is probably going to miss time. This is a guy that had been rotating in there at that cornerback number 2 spot with Dalen Everett. And that was one of the biggest position battles of the offseason, was between Julian Humphrey, Dalen Everett, Nyland Green for who's going to be the corner opposite of Kamari Lassiter. He's locked into that number 1 corner spot for Georgia, and he's been locked into that this whole season. You get Humphrey out there, he gets hurt, and Everett is, kind of the lone guy at that spot at that point for starters. Humphrey, here's the thing about Georgia. They view players that play a lot as starters. And so Humphrey, in a way, is kind of a de facto starter for Georgia, even though Everett is out there a little bit more than him and starts the game most of the time. Humphrey, an important guy that some people think Everett's better or Humphrey's better. Kirby's most recent comment, I don't know how long it's going to be. There's a chance. You never know. He's dinged up. I'm hoping we can get him back as soon as possible. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. Extremely vague wording, and maybe Kirby just straight up doesn't know exactly what's going on with Julian Humphrey, but to me, he's not going to play against Tennessee this week. That would be surprising to me. Is he going to play in the regular season again? There's only 2 more games in the regular season, so I'm not sure. The Georgia Tech game just got announced as a night kick. Against my will, got announced as a night kick. Moving on, Jamon Dumas-Johnson. He obviously missed this game, breaks his arm against Missouri. C.J. Allen, the freshman, number 33, is kind of his main replacement. This guy might be a really good Georgia Bulldog for the next couple of years, C.J. Allen. They trust this guy as a freshman to go out there. And before Pop got injured, they trusted him to be in the rotation and kind of be a de facto starter, in my opinion, even though Jamon Dumas-Johnson's obviously the starting linebacker for the Georgia Bulldogs. They trust C.J. Allen out there, and Raylan Wilson, another freshman, got some significant time as well. All Kirby had to say was week to week trying to get him back. So I thought that C.J. Allen, as the game went on, played really well. He had a bunch of tackles on Saturday. He's all over the field. He's a freshman. He's going to have to, get acclimated. And, look, Georgia's going to play postseason games. Whether it's just, at the very minimum, they've got the SEC championship game, and they're already guaranteed a bowl game after that. So Georgia's going to play at least 14 games, 15 if they win a semifinal game, if it goes to the playoffs. I would imagine Jamon Dumas-Johnson, they find a way to get him back. Arm breaks are not super significant injuries, and they could probably get him out there with some sort of bracing or casting ahead of time. So as they said, they're going to try to find innovative ways to get Jamon Dumas-Johnson back out there. For now, though, he's probably on the sidelines as he heals up a little bit, especially if those freshman linebackers and Xavier Sori rotating in as well can pick up the slack for Pop. That's the latest on Georgia football injuries. And like I said, Amarius Mims was back in there, back at action, the starting right tackle for Georgia. They had a lot of depth, and they were able to rotate 8 guys on that offensive line. So there are more than 5 guys that play significant snaps for Georgia on the offensive line, and Amarius Mims only bolsters that. Thanks for watching. Link is down below for the newsletter. Try to rattle it off real quick for you.